Good morning to all of you. For those of you who are not familiar with our schedule, we have now a session of meditation we have a few sessions of meditation taking us up to 11 o'clock, and there will be a break before that, and then after the break we'll come together and have an opportunity to explore questions, assumptions, and experiences that you had this morning or previously or expect to have in the future. Ostensibly, our time this morning is billed as the practice of calm abiding, or Jine as we know it in Tibetan. But as usual, in order to keep myself entertained, which is a high priority, I always try to introduce some new aspect of the practice. And also, as usual, we begin with the recitation of the refuge and bodhicitta prayer. With or without that liturgy, it's good to remind ourselves as many times as possible during the day and the night of the value and the meaning of refuge and the importance of giving rise to bodhicitta, the awakening mind, that accomplishes not only our own benefit, but the benefit of all sentient beings. It's a rather grand aspiration. And so we can inspire ourselves by pursuing it with some vigor, which is easy to do, with one exception, which we will get to in a while. To repeat what we ordinarily repeat, we are not unfamiliar with the act of refuge. Even if you have never heard the word Buddhism, we all know all the things that we turn to for refuge in our lives, all of our material possessions, all of our ordinary, pleasant and unpleasant relationships, our connections to all things, our emotions, both the positive ones and the negative ones. We continually go for refuge in these things, of course, with the wish that we will be happy. When it doesn't work, we neither blame ourselves nor the Buddha. Though the Buddha is an easier one to blame, he doesn't talk back to us much. So we want to turn our minds to refuge in the Buddha, because the Buddha represents all of the most excellent qualities, good fortune, kindness. We could make a long list, but suffice that. We would all love to embody and experience all of the qualities of the Buddha. So every time we sit down, it's very helpful to remind ourselves that we are sitting down in order to first and foremost go for refuge to all the qualities of the Buddha, which we already inherently possess. See, so often we come thinking that we are going to change ourselves into something really good. There's a problem with that approach, since we already possess all those qualities. So we have to give up this idea of changing our minds, the inherently enlightened mind that we each possess. It could not be made better. Is that good news or bad? It should be good, because if it's not, you're on the wrong track. Those qualities and all of our meditation and practices are focused on recognition of those qualities. Not faking it, but recognizing it, just like when we hear our own voice. So all of our work is not about fixing our inherently pure mind, but about recognizing that purity. So we'll begin by reciting the Refuge and Bodhicitta liturgy together 3 times.
Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness. Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness. Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness.
Now just a very brief easy instruction. Our objective in the practice of calm abiding is to allow the mind to settle naturally. With our voices quiet, stilled, and we often also say without distraction. But this morning I want to also add a slight, hopefully helpful variation. Normally when we encounter distractions in our meditation, we consider that as a defect, as an impediment to our proper meditation. There's nothing wrong with that approach. It can be helpful. But for your pleasure, consider the following. We often say, in the profound instructions, that the mind is unchanging. So here, when we say unchanging, we're not talking about the inherently pure mind itself. When we think, how can that be? I change my mind 100 times an hour. We're talking about the inherently pure mind, which is unchanging in the sense that it has always been present. It continuously and always has manifested all of our experiences without exception. Our happiness, our grief, our insight, our confusion, etc. That mind never came into being, has no beginning and no end. Here we reference that inherently pure, what we call Buddha nature, the awakened nature. And there is no sentient being, no matter how confused, no matter how clear, no matter how wise, no matter how evil, there is not a one who is not fully endowed with that nature. So there is nothing to fix, nothing to enhance or improve. Just for this morning, hold that view of yourself, of your friends, of your unpleasant friends. We are not here to fix it. We are here to recognize it. And recognition is the primary outcome. Everything follows from it. So while you sit, you can experience all of your experiences. A little discomfort after a while on the cushion changes to a little pleasure, perhaps some insight, perhaps some relaxation, perhaps you fall asleep. So consider it your job this morning to just recognize your experience as it unfolds, not to hold on to it, not to push it away. And if you feel up to it, when you have the experience of a difficult emotional state, if you can, rejoice. For in those difficult situations, just like the wildly pleasant ones, in those situations rests the energy that's required in order to recognize your own experience clearly and consistently. So to your best ability, however well that short instruction is clear, I hope, do your best for the remainder of this session to recognize your experiences as they unfold, without judgment, without attachment, without aversion.
this virtue, may I quickly realize Mahamudra and establish all beings without exception in this state.
So we're going to have a break now, and it'll be about 20 minutes maybe until everyone's done with the bathroom breaks. Mostly that is our clock. So take the break, and during the time of this break before our next session, it would be good to observe silence and continually bring your mind back to recognizing what you're doing and what your experience is without judgment and without commentary on it. Just the recognition is enough. Okay? Oh.
First, when you go downstairs, please welcome the children and their parents and the children's teachers. So that's some of the lovely sounds we got to work with this morning. You probably didn't notice them, but and of course, you all know by now, or hopefully do, that Khenpo Lodro Donya will be here very, very soon, teaching June 8th, 9th, and 10th. It's a Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. And then a Green Tara Empowerment the following Tuesday. Please register online. If you cannot afford the dana that's suggested there, please contact Linda Grove. Don't let a lack of material resources keep you away. I say that because I had a question from someone. Please come to the teachings. They're offered free, but of course we need some way to keep the place going and bring Rinpoche here and etc. So I won't be here the second half because I'll be downstairs because my 2 grandchildren are here. So I think I'll be down there unless they don't want Grandma around. And then Dora might have something.
I just want to emphasize the point about registration for the events, because we, as Zopa said, we do need to meet expenses, but what we even need more is for people to attend. And so please don't think, well, I could pay for Saturday or Sunday, so I'll choose. If you have any inclination to come to all of the teachings, please do, and pay for whatever you can. So that's just important to emphasize. It's hard to bring him here. It's hard for him to have time to come here. So don't let the opportunity go by for some silly reason like money. But another thing is we have right now a sustaining membership drive going on, and there's signs about it in the back. And we're trying to get to the point where we have, we chose the wonderful number of 108 sustaining members. So sustaining means that people offer something regularly, monthly, out of your checking account or the like. And we have started the drive with something like 78. And so we're trying to fill out that 108 members to keep ourselves afloat. So there's a little known trivia is that it takes, depending on how many of us contribute, it takes an average of about something in the neighborhood of $80 per person per month to keep KCC going. So clear, but if you become a member for $5 a month, that's also very much appreciated. So just please encourage you to participate in the drive. Anything else?
One other thing. The bookstore has wonderful background books on the topics that Khenpo Rinpoche will teach, on the bardos, on the something of Gampopa.
Four dharmas of Gampopa.
Four dharmas of Gampopa. I'm a little excited about all this. And also on Green Tara. So you might want to look in the bookstore and give a read before, during, and after he's here.
Thank you. I'm sorry, there's one more thing, which is some people have been asking, because we're so excited about Rinpoche's coming, we haven't been talking that much about the retreats that are happening in the fall, but we really want to, and registration for that is not open yet because the events committee is full of preparing for this coming visit. So, but we want you to have those retreats on your calendar, and they're on, the dates are on the website and the titles. There's 2 being offered by Lama Eric and 1 being offered by Lama Michael. And we wouldn't have people on 3-year-long retreat if we didn't think retreat was important. So we really recommend people to try to do retreats whenever they can. And so we're offering these in the fall and hope you'll take advantage of them.